right, class. Now we're starting to get into the poetry that I really enjoy. Cummings. Cummings was an interesting guy. His father, I think, was a teacher at Harvard and like some kind of Congregationalist preacher. But Cummings served in World War I as an ambulance driver, but he was so outspoken about issues and things and ran his mouth a bit too much that he was actually thrown in jail by the French, by his own allies, and he volunteered to go help, and he just thought it was like a ludicrous situation. Um, but uh, he his poetry generally had a lot of like irony. It was very accessible, like open for regular people to read and understand. It wasn't trying to be highfalutin. It wasn't trying to be too highbrow. Um, he often attacked bureaucracy, celebrated the normal everyday person. Um, he felt that here's a nice quote for you. His poetry continued the attack on depersonalized commercial exploitative mass culture and celebrated loners, lovers, and nonconformists. So it attacked, anything that depersonalized human beings, anything that was exploitative, anything that was commercial, and it celebrated, loners and lovers and nonconformists. Um, he was from Cambridge, Massachusetts, went to Harvard. He started kind of copying metaphysical poets like Alexander Pope and John Donne and these guys, but then he discovered Edward Pound and then got highly experimental, which is where he fits into modernism. And you can see by this poem, She Being Brand New, he experiments not only with sounds and words and subject matter, and we'll go over this poem in a second, but he also celebrates experiments visually on the page too. So it kind of breaks away from traditionalism but goes more experimental. Part of this visual stuff is probably because he was also a painter. Um, but anyways, here's another quote for you. Cummings' verse is characterized by common speech and attention to visual form of the poem. That is, the poem as it appears on the page, as distinguished from its sound when read aloud. Experiments with capitalization or lack of it, punctuation, line breaks, hyphenization, and verse shapes are carried out for the reader's eyes rather than ears. So, to express his sense that life was kind of a process, he tended to write these untitled poems, without real beginnings or endings. It's just like almost like fragmentary stream of conscious thought. They're always humorous. There's always some kind of sense of outrage, of cruelty, or the exploitation, and then there's always kind of a celebration of the body and things like that. So let me read for you this She Being Brand New. Okay, let me just tell you, this whole poem is an extended metaphor that driving a car for the first time, a brand new car, is like having sex with a virgin for the first time. And you have like all kinds of things in here, like triple meaning with brand, like you put your brand on someone. Something is a name brand, it's a commodity, brand new, for virginity. And then you can tell like all these line breaks and punctuation and stuff that it's highly experimental. Well, when you read poetry, at the end of a line break is a pause. And semicolons are half pauses, periods are full pauses, commas are quarter pauses. And, a stanza break is a pause too, but when things are smushed together or hyphenated, it's supposed to speed up. So the way this poem is visually laid out on the page dictates how you read it, and it's supposed to sound like sex too, so I'll read it for you. She being brand new, and you know, consequently a little stiff I was, careful of her and having thoroughly oiled the universal joint, tested my gas felt of her radiator, made sure her springs were okay. I went right to it, flooded the carburetor, cranked her up, slipped the clutch, and then somehow got into reverse. She kicked. What the hell? Next minute, I was back in neutral, tried, and again, slowly, barely nudging my lever right. Oh, and her gears being in a one shape passed from low through second into high like grease lightning just as we turn the corner of Divinity Avenue. I touch the accelerator and give her the juice. Good. It was the first ride, and believe we was happy to see how nice she acted right up to the last minute, coming back down by the public gardens. I slammed on the internal expanding and external contracting brakes both at once and brought all of her trembling to a dead standstill. So you can see how experimental that poem is, right? Um, anyways, anyways, let's see. There, we have quite a list of poems from E. Cummings, and they're not too complicated. If you need some background, you can look up Buffalo Bill. But here we go. Buffalo Bill's defunct. Who used to ride a water smooth silver stallion and break 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pigeons just like that? Jesus, he was a handsome man. And what I want to know is, how do you like your blue-eyed boy, Mr. Death? So we got a little bit of humor here. This kind of icon of America, Buffalo Bill. Uh, you know, no longer really relevant to America, defunct now, and the idea of death coming in and having to deal with Mr. Bill, Buffalo Bill, kind of sets a fun circumstance. But look, E. Cummings' poems are pretty straightforward. Oh, spontaneous Earth, just kind of this celebratory type poem, about spring. Um, and in Just as well. But I just thought I wanted to go over a couple of those things about E. Cummings with you, and I hope you enjoy that poem and his poetry.